Live from New Hampshire, it's time for the Science Cafe!
Learn about the latest technologic innovations today.
And you don't have to pay.
Expert panels with advanced degrees are sure to satisfy your curiosity.
Since we mention it's free.
And if you think you'll find a better time than this, then come on down and test your hypothesis. Cause you're gonna learn a lot if you wanna stay down in the Science Cafe.
Welcome to Science Cafe. My name is Dan Marchek. I'm one of the organizers. Tonight we are covering the topic of digital addiction, whatever that means. So how many of you have not been to a Science Cafe before? Okay, a few. So this is largely a question and answer session. So Science Cafe hopes to follow the questions that the audience has. So it's up to you to tell us what you're interested in or curious about or concerned about, and we'll ask the experts from there. And we have Gavin Smith, who's a therapist, John Lynch, who's in marketing for an app development company, and Oz, who is also a therapist. Tonight we're going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to start by having a little conversation with them and get the ball rolling. So I'll start with Gavin, and I'll ask him to tell us a little bit about himself and answer the question, what is digital addiction?
Hello, my name is Gavin. I am the clinical director of a small outpatient therapy practice in Salem, New Hampshire called NEPI. A lot of my caseload is working with young adults, anywhere from middle school up through college, through the 20s. And I see a lot of issues around video games, and digital addiction, and the impact it has on managing one's life in balance with other responsibilities, opportunities, and so forth, and how potentially games or cell phones or social media, whatever it may be, can really encroach into other areas of life in maladaptive ways. At the same time, I have a brother who lives out in Seattle and works for one of the bigger game companies in the world. And so I also am benefit to knowing not only what is they're doing, but what's coming up in the future. And I genuinely believe that how we manage the digital space is not only something that's important now, but will be increasingly important as we go into the future, especially for the young people coming up, because it's not going anywhere and it's only going to get better and more interesting and more exciting. So it's a real, it's something I deal with almost on a daily basis, and it has lots of interesting issues around it.
So you work mostly with younger people?
A lot of I do a splash of everything, but a lot of my clientele is that young adult, adolescent, teenage years.
And in terms of digital addiction, would you say there's something different about younger people than older people?
No, I think the impact it can have on young and old people it is similar in the way it absorbs and takes over time. I think how it creates those issues is different. When they're younger, you're seeing a lot of parent reactivity to it. They don't think, I get a lot of parents saying, hey, work with my kid, they have a problem with gaming. They'll never tell me I have a problem with gaming. It's the parents. But then when it comes into, I have an adult that I work with, and where gaming when we started work, it was going to send his marriage into divorce. So the impact is different, but how it functions is similar.
Hi, my name is John Lynch. I started as covering video games as a writer in 2008 or 9. Transitioned into New Hampshire Public Radio, covered politics and technology for a little while, then crossed over into the black arts of marketing, where I'm now representing Zico Corporation. We are a local mobile app developer for hire. So we do mostly mercenary work. We do databases, inventory management, things like that. Not particularly exciting stuff, but we're one of maybe 2 developers in New Hampshire.
So in your mercenary work, are there guiding principles for how to get people addicted?
I'd say that we've never touched a project I felt ethically bad about. I've never looked at a product and said, this is made to exploit people. I hope that's a good answer.
Well, not a very good answer, but
No.
we'll go on. We'll let the rest of them grill you.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Is
yes,
it Akbas?
Yes, it's actually, my name is Ozgur, but no one can pronounce it, so it's been Oz for 20-something years, so let's go with that. I'm a psychotherapist practicing in Seacoast area, and to answer your question, what's digital addiction? I think I don't separate, I don't even use the word addiction, digital addiction. It's addiction. It walks like a duck and sounds like a duck. It's a duck. So it's addiction, and for anything to be addictive, there are multiple variables in my mind. First, it needs to fulfill a deep psychological need in the short run, and in the long run, it should create problems. And the person who's dealing with it, the problems, wants to actually stop and not be able to stop. So under this categorization, you can be addicted to walking backwards. Hardly, it's probably going to be very difficult, but anything can be addictive. And my definition of digital, addiction is under this category. It's basically anything that has to do screens that is utilizing what's called supernormal strategies, which is, has anyone heard supernormal, the concept of supernormal before? So supernormal is basically, imagine evolution gave us multiple, many different pitfalls and great things that we need to pursue. So for me to eat this Reuben and this wonderful chips, it's full of fat and salt, and I find it incredibly tasty. Thank you so much. When I eat it, I take pleasure. So a supernormal Reuben would look like Big Mac. Okay, if you put the salt, the sugar, and the fat, and exaggerate aspects of an experience that is normally actually pleasant for me, and exaggerate it, I will be drawn to it even further. Okay, I will go after it. So when you look at digital arts, all that stuff you guys actually kind of do, not that you guys, but I see it as they utilize supernormal, the concept of supernormal, exaggerated versions of the things that our evolution has programmed us to like, whether it's socialization through social media, the feedback that we get from social media. We love feedback. Like I saw a couple of months ago, my office is in the third floor. A baby with his mom walked into the elevator, and then I pressed 3, and then he saw it. He goes, and then he goes, press everything. So it was just this feedback mechanism that we love. So these digital devices are utilizing our evolutionary pitfalls. Like who has an app on their phone, Facebook app on their phone right now? Okay. When I'm going to say one thing, red, what do you notice? What's coming up? Association. Red, what do you notice on your app? When you see red on your Facebook app, what do you notice? Yeah, notifications, right? That's basically the feedback. So it is, to answer your long story short, digital addiction is basically a way that we fulfill unmet deep psychological needs using devices. And that becomes, whether it's, we're dealing with depression or loneliness or anxiety or whatever you want to call it, I've seen it all. And it runs a gamut. It ranges from gaming to apps to pornography to whatever. And yeah, that's a start.
So when you were talking, you made me think it sounded like a choice. But then when you were talking about pleasure feedback mechanisms, it sounded chemical. So is this dopamine or is it a choice?
I don't know what I said to make it a choice, but I think there's always an aspect of choice. But so much of the digital addictive strategies is it is designed to circumvent the parts of our brains that can make a choice. So it is, Tristan Harris, the former Google exec, calls it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So they're really trying to find strategies that circumvent the prefrontal cortex so that you don't make a choice. You think you're making a choice. As Americans, we love making choices, right? We think we are free in making choices. You're not. Most of the time, you're not. When your phone goes and then you pick it up, you're not making a choice, actually. You think you're making a choice. You're becoming a Pavlovian dog after a while. That's pretty dark, but that's what it is.
That's a good start. All right, so now it's your turn. We have Scott filming tonight, so we do have microphones. So if you have questions we ask that you put your hand up, and either my colleague Rick or I will bring the microphone to you. Who wants to start? Over
Okay,
there?
we have a question right here.
Oh, okay.
I understand totally what you're talking about, the addiction in terms of digital versus pornography versus alcohol versus all that. But I just want to jump a little bit to the gaming portion of things, because we mentioned that before. You're talking about gaming addiction in terms of the digital. How does that differ? What are the mechanisms that differ from, let's say, when I was a kid, I wasn't addicted to Monopoly, Trouble, maybe Twister. But if you're talking about those type of games, which is still a game, there's a reward, there's a win at the end, versus the video games now that seem to be more addictive, where's the difference? What's the catch that's making that addictive versus the older games that weren't?
One of the biggest difference I see in the addiction, the difference between sort of those classical types of play and what's happening digitally online is first the quick ease of access to that space. You can literally, we're talking about pushing a button, turning something on, and boom, we're there. We don't need other people to be right next to us. It is something that is very quick and accessible. And once we're in there, the amount of processing your brain does to be in that moment really then excludes darn near anything else going on in your life. So it gives a quick and instant getaway from everything. You know, your worries about the day, what's going on at home, what's going on at school, all that quickly evaporates and makes a very nice space, again, that can address those pains that someone may be feeling, the loneliness, the being bullied, the whatever, and boom, we're in a space where all that matters is the enjoyment that's being created in that moment, and it's that quick, and it's instantaneous. When I talk to parents, I'm always trying to help them understand what that space looks like, and whatever you may do to disconnect from a long day, or why we look forward to like a vacation, a cruise, or whatever, and that the feeling that provides, that is what is occurring at a push of a button. And so I know, a client of mine that I work with, they start even feeling that response, the positive vibes from just turning on their computer when they walk in the door. So they haven't they'll talk to me and they haven't even seen the screen come to life. They haven't sat down on the thing, but just hearing that computer whirl up, boom, we're back in that space. And that's what I think makes that space so compelling and different than what we've seen in the past.
So you brought up Monopoly, which is it's a great example. Because Monopoly in a vacuum is a terrible game. There's a really good Sopranos episode about how it's a terrible game, and it leads to nothing but family strife and whatnot. But if you suddenly change it so that you put that on a leaderboard, and you say, it's not just me and my family, it's me and everyone in the world, and I want the best, whatever, Monopoly score, and let's say the graphics are very realistic, and it's a very immersive experience, and you can pay a few more dollars to get a little bit better, make your numbers go up, etc., that is a much different thing than playing a game in a vacuum. And for whatever reason, the evolution of how connected we are has just increased exponentially. I'm assuming everyone's phones in our pockets right now are reporting to somewhere that we are here at Riverwalk at this time and date. Some of you might be checking into Foursquare still, don't do it. If that still exists, I don't know. No, but there is an element of gamification, and that's a separate thing. Gamification is its own, not field of academia, but certainly for people making compelling game products now, it's a very important aspect to it.
The difference between your old Monopoly and Twister and current games is they were not designed after blueprints of slot machines. Weird short story. My mom, for some odd reason, when she visited me, wanted to go to Vegas. I'd never been to Vegas. So on our tour years and years ago, we went to Vegas. She just did this, and she was very happy. And that's when I saw a first-hand slot machine. So they're designed to have sound, graphics, constant feedback. So the Monopoly game that we play have all of those things, incredibly slow and very, less intense, less immersive, like you were saying. So these things are not accidentally designed. Okay, these are designed, tested and retested, tested and retested to get the best connect. Do you know how casinos measure the success of a slot machine? Depending on how much time a person spends on it. So that's exactly what most app or digital developers are using as a metric for their success of their app. Like they don't care if you're spending time. The time that you're spending is basically taking away time from your family, your work, whatever. As long as the app is actually, or the digital media is actually keeping you there. So it is basically the super normal thing that I was talking about. For example, the game, first-person shooter games, right? Has anyone played first-person shooter games? Great. They're fun, okay? And evolution basically made us really, really like being able to affect change at a distance, right? What do you think about, like, when you think about what's the advantage of being able to shoot something at a distance? Why is it something pleasant? Exactly. You get to pass your genes on, right? Very basic. You're safe. You get to pass your genes on. The ones who utilize that mechanism actually lived, and they passed their genes on. So for a caveman hunter to shoot an arrow or a spear, probably they were doing it like once or twice a week. In a first-person shooter game, do you know how many times you pull the trigger? Several hundred times per minute. So that is super normalization, okay? That's why your Monopoly is literally your dad's weed compared to crack cocaine. That's what it is. That's what's happening. So none of that was actually, that Monopoly was not really thinking, the designers of Monopoly, my guess, how much time can we make them spend on Monopoly? Now, current games are literally thinking that, and they're beta testing it and testing it again, and if the people are not spending enough time on it, they don't release it.
I'm wondering where you draw the line between an interest in something, for example, a game, or Facebook, or pictures of grandchildren or whatever, and when it becomes an addiction.
Let's do this quickly. My short answer would be, if it's causing problems, it's a problem.
If I go to bed mad about something that happened online or I saw on social media or whatever, enough to make me stew actively, it's probably a problem. It's a low bar, but...
And agreeing with that, I also go into my work, I'm always looking at balance. So is it causing a problem? And then after that, do you have these other components that are important in life balanced out? So are we being productive and successful at work/school? Do we have other opportunities for engagement that are positive and productive, sports, clubs, whatever? If there is a balance and it's fitting into that, then it's being managed. If it is just gaming and we're failing at school or we're missing time at work, then it's a problem. And so I always look at how does it balance out into people's lives.
I totally agree with Gavin. And one thing I would add to that is what I said earlier. If it is to really, I think, to discern whether it's something that is kind of an obsession or something that you really like and versus an addiction is with obsessions, you probably don't want to stop, right? You like it. With an addiction, you want to stop at some point. And you try to stop and it doesn't work. That's usually a very significant differentiator. Positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. Obsessions you like, you don't want to give up. With addiction, you want to give up, you can't. You want to limit, but you have a hard time.
Someone has the digital addiction. What are the techniques used for the therapy itself to try to cure or mitigate the issue itself? What type of techniques work better than others?
Without getting too terribly techie, a lot of the stuff, again, we talk about balance. And so if we understand the meaning that space serves to whoever is diving deep into it and it's causing a problem, we have to look at what replaces it. And so I do a ton of understanding and work about what are we passionate about, and so forth. And sometimes you have to build that from the ground up because gaming has played such a role that is really their just go-to for any type of interaction. So if you just remove it, you're leaving somebody with, again, a pain that isn't being served and is going to continue to create an issue and often set them up for failure. So I'm always looking at what else can we bring online? What can we get into? And if you like this about gaming, what kind of sparks your interest that could be similar and so forth. And so, again, like the FPV stuff, flying drones is awesome. And you put it on, it mirrors some of that. It has a controller. But that's a real skill. It takes a lot of work to learn how to fly a drone without crashing it every which way and so on. So, like, you start trying to borrow from what gaming's providing, create other things, and if it's successful, we'll start seeing some of that time shift because now we're engaged in new and different things.
This is more just to add on to that. To you, Oz, I say, when you are trying to detox someone digitally, what do you do if their social lives are tied into this? Like, how do you even deal with that? Because it seems to me that if you were to separate them from that, it's like you're saying, well, you can't talk to any of these people, you can't talk to any of your support group.
I don't deal with it. Their parents deal with it. I'm just kidding. I work with adults as well too. What happened? Just to answer that question, abstinence in technology addiction is not possible. It's not. It's not realistic. It's crazy. Okay, that's why it makes it really hard. So with alcoholism, it is possible, and it's usually that's the only way. But with technology addiction, at this point, it's not possible. To add to what Gavin was talking about, replacement is great, but I think, just to let you know, like, this is incredibly new, right? This whole thing started in 2007. Like, really, like this really started getting really out of control, 2007. Maybe this will, I'm jumping ahead, but so very fascinating statistics. Ready for this? Who's aware of Masters and Johnson's work on sexuality? Right, great. So 1950s, 60s, they've done great work. And what they found, erectile dysfunction rates for men under 30, okay, I'm going somewhere with it, promise, okay? Stay with me. Under 30, globally, remained around 2 to 3%, okay, globally. And that remained the same for 50 years until 2007, okay? In 2007, a Canadian study found that 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds were experiencing 5 to 10 times more erectile dysfunction rates than ever before, from 2007 to 2008 in 1 year. What do you think has happened? Yeah, porn has been around for centuries. Smartphone, iPhone, and iPad. That's when they were introduced. 1 year. 1 year, okay? So I'll get back to you, but so just to, like, in terms of treatment, it is so new and so intense. And if you have people in your life who are, parents of teenagers, I really hope you can be kind to yourselves, because no one knew what this was going to turn out to be like. No one. And it was peddled as like, this is great, give it to them. And now we have this crazy situation. As a therapist, I'm still learning. And I'm treating it like a normal addiction. But the problem is, it is really hard to treat it like a normal addiction, because you can't go like, well, guess what? You can't talk to your friends ever. Like, that doesn't work that way. So it's, motivational interviewing. Have you heard of that? It's a wonderful tool. I can't go into the details of it, but it's basically also the concept of the self-determination theory. Anyone heard of that? So if someone develop competency and they believe that what they're really trying to do, the change that comes from them, they're more likely to stay with that change. So I would ask really random questions. Well, not random, taking that back, seemingly random questions or counterproductive questions to people. So what do you get out of this? Like, what do you like about it? What do you like about your addiction? That's a great question to ask, because then you can get into what Gavin was talking about. Like, what is the unmet need? Like, usually you'll get answers like, well, I don't feel alone. Ooh, okay. I feel excited. You're bored, right? You were alone. So it's very important to get those questions out there before you can come up with any kind of intervention to really help the person to motivate, to get to the point of change, which is there's 4 stages of it. Pre-contemplation. You're not even thinking that there's a problem. Contemplation. You're like, maybe there's some issues in my life. Taking action, right? And 4th one is the one that we all fail. Have you ever made actually a Christmas, New Year resolution? Yeah. That's the fourth one is the one that we all fail at. Maintenance. You take action, you go to the gym, you go to yoga, you do your thing, and then you never maintain it. You don't know how to maintain it. So to get someone from pre-contemplation to contemplation, you have to really stay with their, well, what is it that, what's their addiction about? What their problem is about, and not even labeling as a problem. So there's also, when you take away someone's stuff, they're going to fall into depression, because that's these things that I purposely put away from me, because it has a psychological effect on everyone, me including you. If you saw that phone over there, if you take that away from me immediately, that's my dopamine drip. That's like a morphine drip. So you need to counter that based on replacement, also based on sometimes I tend to utilize supplements rather than antidepressants, which they are as effective as placebo. If you're mildly or moderately depressed, you might as well better off take Tic Tac. If you are, and I tell you that you're taking the best amazing medicine, you'll be like, oh, great, I'm feeling better. So you need to do something to really help with the brain physiology, which if there are any more questions, I'll go into that. But so that's a very loaded question.
First of all, I still like playing Monopoly. And I've not been attracted to any of these games. I have no idea why. If I did, I'd be in trouble. But my wife thinks I'm addicted to my phone because I look at it for 4 or 5 hours a day. I look at Facebook. I have 200 emails a day. Then I looked at LinkedIn, and then I look at the news, and then I look at the weather, and I go back and forth and back and forth. So I do spend 3 or 4 hours a day. Am I addicted to that? Because it seems that the game thing really sucks you in, but I get the enjoyment out of looking at these multiple different places that I can access rapidly. I don't even use my computer anymore because it's so much easier to pick up my phone. And I get, messages. People send me messages now. So is that an addiction, or how would you categorize it?
Can we come back and to how it's being integrated into life? I mean, 4 or 5 hours. If we have nothing other to do than sit on the beach all day, 4 or 5 hours may not be a big deal. If we're really jamming, then what does that do to our day? And also, the next piece that comes out is what I find interesting is, you're mentioning that, well, your wife is saying this. So then the question is, well, is that time with that phone coming into time that is being felt, experienced, shared with your wife? And therefore, there's a problem. And so how we manage it, whether it be gaming, whether it be just having the phone or the social apps, is how we balance that out into our day. And so, when it comes to phones, and again, when parents bring, the kids in and there's a problem, and fix it. And I talk about stuff, one of the things I'll throw out is like, at dinner time, that should be like a no phone time. And you just watch the parents go, oh. And because there they are, and they're bringing that to that space, and they may be complaining about sons gaming or again, not to be generalizing around sex lines or the daughter's internet, but that's usually how it plays out. But yet they're there at the table. So how we manage it, how we incorporate into the space is really what, again, for all of us, is not only an issue now, but is only going to become more so because everyone that's developing this, the stuff that's coming is just going to be even better and more exciting and so forth. So I think that's really the answer: is how do those 4 or 5 hours come into your day, and what impact does it have?
So I'm not an expert in addiction at all, obviously, but I can tell you from my experience working in the software industry, someone's looking at that and says, this man, this user, this unique identifier right here, he spends 5 hours of screen time, and they can cut that into probably 30-second segments. I'm not even joking, with certainty, to say he was at this app at this time, this app at this time, and this app at this time. So I can't tell you whether or not you're addicted, but some marketer somewhere is rejoicing that you are spending 5 hours on the phone.
This is not a dichotomous option here, right? You're not addicted and you're addicted. The field of addiction, is a spectrum. So, addiction is the very end of that spectrum. You could be dealing with abuse. You could be also dealing with recreational use, just like, any kind of substance, right? So, usually, once again, is it, the first thing that I always ask is like, is it creating problems? Sounds like it's creating problems. You may not be addicted, but you may be in that, area. And there's actually, if anyone's interested, I believe, brief internet addiction survey. I don't know what the acronym is. You can take a look at it and kind of like, I always mess with when I do workshops on this, even with clinicians, I mess with people like, I kind of like do it at first and see where people lay in that, in that spectrum, and like ask them to raise their hands. And it's usually, good half of us is really moderate to, severe issues around technology use. Don't forget, once again, I'm going to quote Tristan Harris, this idea, and I know this, in America we so value our willpower and individuality. I got news for you. The things, every single time you think that you're making a decision based on your own willpower, individual will, most of the time you're not. And here's why, with technology. Do you know how much it costs to buy a house in San Francisco? Too much. $1 million, $1.5 million on average. So, and they're going like hotcakes. That means they're getting paid, a lot of people are getting paid a lot of money to buy, and they're all working in Silicon Valley. So behind every screen that you have, there's at least good 1,000 people graduated from the top universities, are getting paid $1 million a year to break your willpower. So good luck, sir. So like, that's why I have to tell you this. If I try, my phone is right now, my Facebook is, if I try to go there right now, it will say, you reached your screen time. And my wife has my code. I have hers. So I don't mess around with this stuff. Like, I don't take it lightly. My kids are woefully complaining to us all the time. Everybody has screens. We don't have screens. Like, also, none of their dads are expert on this, so sorry. So to answer your question, it is a spectrum, and you can totally take that one of those self-reported questionnaires. But my guess is if one of the questions in there is anyone in your family complaining about your time on devices?
Two of you work with young adults and adults, yes? Mostly adults, okay. So I work with preschoolers, and I don't know if you can talk about, so you're talking about adults or young adults who had the benefit of a childhood where parents made eye contact, they read books together, they played creatively with toys. And this also goes to the question the gentleman made about their grandchild. Can you quote any of the research that this is happening on what we're raising with kids that were born with this technology with regard to delay of gratification, social skills, etc.?
First, eye contact, funny you said that. Anyone has a guess around what percentage of the time that you need to maintain eye contact, like I'm going to all freak you out, just making eye contact with you, to make any social interaction? So I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. What percentage of the time we should be maintaining eye contact to make it meaningful? You mean next? That kind of that resonates with us. 20%? 25. Okay, good. I feel like an auctioneer. Anyone else? 70%. 70% of the time. Right now, average teenagers maintaining eye contact around 20 to 30%. So far, the World Health Organization declared that depression by 2020 will become the second most debilitating illness in the world. Yay, Prozac, which doesn't work. So sometimes it does, I think, when it's really, really severe. The critical thing is, with any kind of exposure to anything that is addictive, is when my brain was forming, I had Commodore 64. Does anyone remember that? My mom hated that, but I loved that thing. And my favorite game was, I don't even know, what was it? Wizard of War. It was just like the really weird graphic game, if you guys remember it. So that was a captivating game, but it has nothing compared to what's going on right now. So anyone who's aware of what dopamine does? So we used to think that dopamine was feel-good neurotransmitter. It's not. It's motivation transmitter, okay? So it motivates you and it opens all your learning centers so that your brain can absorb all the information that it can, okay? So what happens with these games, they are so interactive and immersive, someone's dopamine floodgates are open and they're paying attention to everything that's happening, but also everything in their environment becomes so cues, like, you know, when your client was talking about how they pressed a button and it cues up, I was like, ooh, I'm feeling better. So when it comes to brain development, so cruel experiments in science, they developed a while back 2 species of mice. One has no dopamine, the other had 5 times the average level of dopamine in mice. The first group, they would be starving or thirsty, parched, about to die. They will not motivate, didn't have the motivation to just turn around and eat. Okay? The sad thing is when you feed them, they will have the mammalian liking response, which is, so they still like what they're eating, but they don't have the motivation to do anything. The one that had 5 times dopamine, for a labyrinth experiment, rather than finding the path, they chewed through the path and got to food. Okay? That's called craving. Okay? So to answer your question, when it comes to dopaminergic activation of different experiences, food, specifically chocolate, which is very significant weakness of mine, is 50% dopaminergic activating. Okay? 50%. Sex is 100%. Cocaine is 350%. Gaming of 1998, okay? 20 years ago, 1998, Doom, 100%. It's equal to sex. So when you give a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old something that's dopaminergic activating as sex and tell them, you have 15 minutes, can you really handle that? They're not going to handle that. And their whole brain is going to revolve and simply build itself around that dopamine drip. That's what's going to happen. So we are creating, basically a generation that is depending on dopamine drips. And I'm not. It's literally job guarantee for me and Gavin. Yeah. It's sad. I'd rather be out of my job, but that's guaranteed.
I agree completely, and it's one of the areas where so much at that age is part of the reason that I don't do as much work. There's multiple reasons for how my skill set's developed, but when we have preschoolers and all of that are so exposed to that level of input and so forth, there's so much that isn't happening. We talked about eye contact, all the social interaction, cueing, response, and so there's not only are we learning to respond differently to our environment and so forth, but we're missing out on a lot of other stuff, and it is extremely problematic. And it's one thing to say to other parents this is what to do, but when you look at the bigger scale of multiple in a single classroom of kids that are and God, it is easy. I'm a father of twin 3-year-olds, and which is a mind bender in its own right. But the ease of one of them is breaking, melting down. The other one is breaking our house, and here's an iPad, and like that you can get complete attention, resolve stuff, or hey, we're driving in the car. And they ride with me. Their daycare is right below my office, which works out well, but we have about 45-minute commute. And I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in that car where one of them is just raising hell, and I'm like, I haven't even started my day, and I'm fried. And there's that spot. Well, you could toss the iPad back there and put on Room on a Broom, and they would be good. And it's so easy and effective, that it's understandable why that trap exists. But the impact of it is really profound. And I don't have many answers. I don't work with a lot of that age group, but there's a lot going on when that's what they're sort of being raised on.
More scary research. Dense gray matter. Does anyone know what it does? It's, basically the gray matter. The more gray matter you have, the more separated you are from, apes, basically. So it's a good idea to have a lot of dense gray matter. So there was evidence, like if you were struggling with addiction, any kind of addiction, your DGM goes down, okay? Which is really sad, really, really sad, because DGM in the prefrontal cortex area, which is basically the seat of superego, right, allows you to control your impulsivity. So if you're an addict of any kind, struggling with addiction, and we are all susceptible to it, by the way, all of us. So I really want to shake every single one of you. You are one app, one video game, one website, one whatever away from your own addiction, including me. So when DGM declines, your impulsivity goes up. So basically, your addiction makes you more addicted. There was circumstantial evidence a while back, and some correlative evidence until I believe 2011. And there was a very interesting experiment that was done. So they took a bunch of non-gamers, of course, not 3-year-olds. That's so not ethical. But they actually exposed them to 1 week of 10 hours a day gaming. 10 hours. That's a lot. I know. It was like, who would do that? My guess is they just probably paid him or game pizza. That's what I used to do when I was, if I wanted to research subjects in college, like free pizza, and they would come. 1 week of 10 hours of playing video gaming, there was a significant decline in DGM levels. So that's not correlative. That's causality. Okay, that is golden grail, holy grail of science, causality. So also, on top, it erodes white matter. White matter is myelin sheathing. Does anyone know what that does? So if you find an electrical cable, basically the sheathing on it is basically allowing the signal to stay strong and also not so that you don't get shocked. So if you myelin sheathing is a basically fatty substance that coats your brain cells, your axons of your neurons. So the signals travel faster and faster. If you have really thick, nice sheathing, that also erodes that. Your brain works slower. So there is clear evidence. And here's the thing. NRA spends a lot of money on lobbying in Washington. Do you know who beats them? The gaming industry. Why would you want to spend so much money if you really don't have anything to hide?
Okay, the next two questions are actually going to come from this area of the room again.
So this time I'm going for a marketing question here. Somewhere in the last 2 years, I read an article, and I wish I could remember, I just have the take-home message in my head, that basically said that software or app designers, they're now designing the apps for some sort of quick reward type situation to get you more addicted. So in your experience, what kind of things do you know about that software or app designers are doing that get you addicted?
This is going to be a cop-out, but I mean, what's always worked? And quick, impulsive, for the same... I was in Las Vegas earlier this year, against my will, and sitting in that terminal, and my wife is here, she's right there. I think we heard the same jingle probably 1,000 times, right, honey? Like, it's just the same things, that instant reaction. And it's the same reason that if someone you hate posts something on social media and that comment box is right there and you just want to sock it to them, and you know you're going to hear a response in 5 minutes, it is brutally effective. But that's what's always worked. It's the same thing. It becomes a little more complicated in games. It's a very far-reaching field. There are many types of games, but I haven't gotten a raise in a while. But if we're supposed to assume the dopamine release, if I can gun down someone in a Call of Duty game, I go in, it takes 15 minutes to get into a match, I link up, and I come out first, it's a great feeling. It is that same thing. It is that it feels good, I'm going to do it. More technically, specifically, everything's engagement now. So our back-end metrics are all engagement. I would say, not our personally, but our clients. Back-end engagement. Every app written today is designed more or less, and for technical reasons, to record What were you when this event happened? What happened? What was the user input? What did they do immediately after? And I cannot stress this enough. Down to the millisecond, down to 1,000th of a second. You can't even make decisions that fast. But damn it, we're gonna get an Excel table and we're gonna plot it out. What was he doing between second 1 and second 3? There's perpetual motion machines, this idea of perpetual motion machine, but for analytics in the back end, it's a machine that sharpens itself as it goes. It gets sharper and sharper and sharper. We know that they want to do this at this point. And the metrics are countless, however many. Some apps take, not necessarily, I couldn't give you a name of one, but the technology certainly exists to track eye motion. Where are you looking at on the screen at a given time? Are you looking up at the taskbar? Are you looking down at your notifications? Are you looking what part? And they're only going to get better and better at doing this. That's a feature. If anyone works with any kind of software, any poor, long-suffering engineer, it's like, why did this break and why did it happen? There is an innocent thing in data analysis or data tracking that it's like, as an engineer, they want to build a good product. Why did this go wrong when? I would say that's a good use case for this. If you are completely evil, you would say, how do we make the hamster wheel even better? How do we get him on it for long? Right? And I feel a little bit like, not that I'm the punching bag on this panel, but certainly I'm here to say that these tools can be used for good and evil. It's about as ethical as the designers behind it. These are not inherently evil tools, but damn it, if you want to, you certainly can. You can make a self-sharpening machine that we know exactly when to dole out the rewards. This guy, let's say, one of the most popular games genres right now is what's called a looter shooter. And this is going to age horribly for video because 20 years people are going to be this guy says looter shooter. But the idea of I'm playing this game, I'm killing these things, so I want a really good sword to drop. I want a flaming sword. Well, in the back end they say, well, this guy's been really unlucky. He's put 8 hours in and damn it, he didn't get his sword. What if right before they knew he was about to quit, it dropped? Right? It's the self-sharpening machine. It will just become more and more effective at doling out rewards to keep you hooked. If you're an evil, horrible person with no ethics at all.
Can I back you up on this? Yeah, I know he feels really lonely here, but totally agree with him. But also, what you just said is fascinating because that is not even an old technology. Like, what if we drop him the flaming sword? Thank Las Vegas for that. People, before cameras, they had people walking around finding frustrated people who are about to leave their slot machine and like, hi, sir, here's from the house. Here's $5 or here's your drink. And you're like, I won. And you stay longer. That is like 50-year technology.
So I'm not here to shill our products, but we did do a collaboration with Dr. John Torres. We're not going to make money off this, so I'll tell you. Dr. John Torres, he is a researcher, worked with Harvard Medicine. So the thing I was saying about recording everything that happens within a 1-second window, thousands of times. His app, it's called Mind Lamp. It is for schizophrenic patients, and as they are experiencing symptoms, they are able to log them. It's using the same technology. There are ethics, and some of these people it's for treatment uses, like valid treatment, like this person has, it is a benefit to a psychologist. Say, what did you feel threatened, or what did you feel at this moment? What triggered it? And that's a positive thing.
Certain Facebook algorithms are able to predict suicidality. That's wonderful. But also, after John is done, I'm going to talk about not so wonderful algorithms.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Thank you, Oz. We definitely tag team that one. You're gonna make it dark though, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right, bring it. Let's go. Bring it.
I'm not sure, how you're going to think about this, Gavin, you too, but like this idea of AI, right? Like artificial intelligence. Right now, I'm not an expert on this, but they're not intelligent. They're artificial, and they're really good at recognizing patterns, okay? But they don't even know what they're recognizing. They will eventually might get there. So to answer your question, what happens with sometimes good intention, like this is really about business model. So who here knows about Jaron Lanier? You should read about him. A great book that he wrote is called "You're Not a Gadget," and he wrote it about 2008. talk about prophecies, right? So he's the inventor of one of the fathers of virtual reality, is a incredible critic of the current internet design. Okay, right, so what he talks about is, look, if your designs are based on when they were there, he describes it himself and his fellow tech nerds as, we were in the 80s, we really wanted to create basically a utopian socialist reality. I said the dirty word, I know. But they really wanted internet to be free and everything to be great. And then what they couldn't foresee was, if we make everything free, how do we kind of deal with this great American tradition of entrepreneur? Right? How do entrepreneurs make money? And when a significant group of inventors want things free, and they are free, Facebook is free, most of your apps are free, the only way to make money is what? Ads. Early ads, this is the business model problem. This is not evil problem. This is business model problem. Early ads were cute. Like you would get, like, I don't know if you remember, like on Google search, not targeted at all because they didn't have the algorithms to track you. Like you will be typing about finding a dentist, your ad will be about pizza, right? And then, you click on it, I was like, cool, I'll get pizza. After a while, when they start tracking it, comes algorithms, comes computing power. It stops. This is not ads anymore, people. I don't think you're doing it. I would call it behavior modification. Okay. They knowing every segment of your behavior, what happens millisecond before and what happens millisecond after, big data gathers that, and they can predict and control and cajole your behavior. That's basically, you're trapped in a large Skinner box. You're a Pavlovian experimental dog. More like Skinnerian, if there's a thing like that. So it is, and the thing about Facebook algorithms, what they know, the algorithm easily discovered, you don't need Russia to create issues in democracies in Facebook, because the system itself is so messed up. The algorithm knows, here's the thing. I click on something, you click on something, you click on something, and then we do it over and over again. Algorithm gathers information around, this person clicks on this, they like this. Their engagement is based on these things, and there's a lot of tags around that. So it doesn't know exactly what this means. It knows that I am engaging. My Facebook feed, which is limited, by the way, I have an app for that limits it, is a lot of dog and cat videos, okay? Because I don't watch politics on it, none of that. So there's a lot of cute cat and dogs videos, which is really great. But number one predictor of engagement, what feeling do you think engages you the most? Not only apps, in life. Outrage. Outrage. So the algorithm figures out what makes you outraged and gives more and more of that to you. And it's not evil. It's dumb. All it wants is engagement, and it just gives you what you need for outrage and engagement. And that is a bit of a crazy echo chamber, right? You keep getting these crazy things that outrage you. So it's not evil, it's the business model that engages you, then you are more ads. So that needs to change. Like Netflix, you pay for it. Great content. Wow, what a novel idea to pay for content on internet. Jaron Lanier argues for Facebook to be made not free anymore. They can make more money and they won't have to track our behavior. We can pay a couple of dollars a month. The third world, they don't have to pay. We'll pay for them, right? But that business model is the problem, not marketers. I'm doing my best.